Hey guys, what is up? You guys are listening and watching. This is season 2, episode 2, This and That with Mitch and Matt. Obviously, you see tonight that we are one man short. Matt had some stuff come up tonight, couldn't be joined with us tonight, but we did reach out and get author, screenwriter. You got a list of titles, but we'll let you explain a little more of that. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Paul Cornell joined us tonight. Very happy to have you. Thank you. Thank you for taking your time to come on and hanging out with us. And like I said earlier, man, I screenwrite and author is kind of my limit. I know you have a probably list of titles, and you have seemed to be such a busy body doing so many different things. I'll let you kind of explain to everybody kind of what you do, what your titles are.
A bit of an all-rounder. I write television, books, and comics.
And you do very well at those. Huge fan, of course, as you see above me, of your new work from Vault Comics, I Walk with Monsters. Right now it is definitely, as I think I've told these guys before I reached out to you that one of my favorites. It's different. And if, I'll let you explain a little bit of that, kind of what it all is about, but it's on a little land of its own right now, I think, for the topic matter that you cover and the way you cover it with the words. And then Sally Cantrino does the artwork, which is absolutely outstanding. So if you want to explain a little bit, kind of, I know you probably are burnt out of that because I know it's the hot thing right now. We do have a bit of a different audience though. So,
well, yes. I mean, I Walk with Monsters is a very heartfelt horror comic. It's my attempt to do a Stephen King, to write a proper horror story about something real. And it's about a young woman, JC, and her friend David, who can turn into a monster. And they are exploring, they're tracking a number of what David calls people who can't be fixed through America, and murdering them. And this is entirely it's actually a warm and loving relationship, a kind of father-daughter thing between the two of them. And it's based on David trying to work off his guilt by killing the people that JC feels need to die. And because they're doing what JC lived through. And it's a comic that's based in abuse, but we don't see any of the actual abuse.
Right.
We're trying to, what I've been saying to people who've lived through stuff like that, and no spoilers, but we've got you. We're not going to let you down. This is a horror story that sufferers, that experiencers of childhood abuse can, well, maybe not read safely, but we're not going to suddenly come out with or show anything that's disturbing or triggering. And we're going to take the readership to an ending that's hopefully a good place. And it's not every horror story that comes with a guarantee, but it's something I'm very proud of. I think it's my best work in any medium. It's a lot of it is based on to some extent my own experience, and it's an attempt to tell the truth through the medium of a story about giant monsters.
Right.
And Sally Cantorino, the artist, is a genius. As you've said, I think she's immensely talented at portraying Americana, about the landscapes. Her acting is phenomenal. I can describe quite intricate emotional situations in the scripts, and she'll just land it pow, 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 to the extent where I'm barely having to put much dialogue in there. A lot of the narrative here is just in silent panels. And I'm delighted by this team. The Vault, who publish it, do a whole range of horror books, and we're sort of part of a wave. But we sold out our first issue and got a reprint. We're doing pretty good, I think. So,
oh yeah,
I think it's striking a chord with people. Reviews seem to say it is. And, sorry, I went on and on there.
No, that's exactly what I loved it. That's what we were going to say is, so, I mean, not to sound, I guess, I don't know what the word would be, but like I reached out to you based on the fact that I was a fan. I'm, as you see, I've got a Voorhees painting here. I'm a big horror fan. I know you do a horror podcast reviewing horror films. So I'm a big horror guy. So I stumbled upon this book and just happened to grab first printing of your first issue and got into it. And as a fan, as somebody who reads it and didn't contribute to it, it's such a good job of what you did, like you said, without showing that abuse, without describing it really in detail to where it would a sufferer would trigger that. Like you can feel it and see it through Sally's artwork, of course, but through everything that you guys do as a team. Like as I'm, and try not to spoil this for anybody else either, but as I'm 4 issues in, as far as the abuse, very none or limited on what is visual, but you can sense it and feel it each panel as you go through and you read this. And I actually waited. I told my wife I wanted to wait till today to finish issue 4 to read issue 4. So I literally a couple hours ago I read it, and she walked back into the room, and I had a look on my face, and I was looking for issue 5, and I was like, I know it's here. I got to have it. Like it does. It leaves you kind of wanting more, and it is. I've never. I think this is the first book I've seen that I've read with Sally as the artist. So she does a tremendous job at what she does. And you're right when you say that she can take, I'm assuming what you say, because some of those panels that they don't have any words or very, very limited, you can still kind of grasp and feel what's going on with JC and David the whole time. And it's exceptional.
Her acting, her expressions are tremendous. Yeah. And we're 6 issues long, so we've got 2 more to go. Right. It's been quite an amazing ride. Thank you so much, by the way. It's delightful to hear from a fan like that. I really appreciate it.
It's good. It's worth it. I promise. So it doesn't come from a place of just boasting you up. It actually comes from a sense of like, hey, this is good. This is real good. Is this the first time you've worked with Sally as far as in a book like, is it?
Yeah. Vault gave me a range of artists to, what do you think of these folk? And I think they found her on DeviantArt or on her own website. I think she's going to be a superstar. And I would love to work with her again. But let's see what happens when she's, suddenly elevated to drawing the next huge book.
Right.
For DC Black Label or something. Not that I know that she is. I just assume that she's got
right. She's going to go places. Right. Yeah. I do like Vault does have, like you said, they do have a whole now horror just collection. Plot I know is a thing that's out right now. That's kind of big. I've started reading some of those, and I've dabbled in like the DC Black Label.
I really like These Savage Shores from the Vault as well. My own podcast, Hammer House of Podcast, is about the ancient Hammer horror movies of the 60s and 70s. And they really aren't, they don't have the capacity to horrify anymore, because I'm a wuss. I'm a complete wuss about horror movies. My co-host Liz says we're going to do the modern Hammers as well. And I'm like, oh, are we okay? So one of my favourite things is ancient horror that is drained of all horror. So for me to write, because I write horror in a number of areas, and it's like I can give it out, but I can't take it.
Right. It's a different world, especially new horror versus old horror. You talk about like Frankenstein and some of the older stuff, House on a Haunted Hill, the Vincent Price stuff, anything like that has got a different feel than if you watch something of today, which they hit a number of sensories, and I think in your sensors in your body that they attack you from every angle. And I love horror as much as anybody.
I used to be a huge gore hound. When I was I was a huge. I mean, I still am a huge Clive Barker fan. It's just I can't go and see the movies anymore. And as I got older, I just got wussier and wussier. And I think one gains a sense of vulnerability as one gets older, particularly when one has children.
Right.
And yeah, in my 20s, I thought I was bulletproof, and so Nightbreed, I loved it.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I am. I also should mention Dervla Kelly, whose colours on I Walk with Monsters are just tremendous.
I mean, it's an all-star team. It really is. I mean, you guys knocked it out of the park. You really did well. So everybody done well on that.
He's truthful too. He's had that thing. He had those books. He told me about him like a while ago. I don't know.
I did. I tried to get to him. I was like, you got to check this comic out. Read this. Read it.
When he first started talking about getting,
I'm so delighted.
Yeah, when he first started talking about getting in touch with you, I didn't know that you were the guy who made him. He had showed me the books, and later on I found out. So yeah, he.
And also, our lettering is nothing to be sneezed at. The way that and World Design, who's one guy, like at the end of 4. That incredible page, which I won't spoil, but the lettering is a huge part of that. And one of the things we do is we see comics pages through JC's perceptions. So, we had a long discussion in our. We have a Slack. That's how we communicate. That's how we put the comic together with Adrian, the boss of the vault, who's the editor. We had a long discussion over a page where we've got somebody apparently reaching out from a poster. And this being comics, we were trying to work out how to say to the reader, JC is overwhelmed by what's on the image that's on this poster, but it's not really reaching out to grab them.
Right.
That's just how it feels to her, and that's the image we've got on the page. Yeah. So again, Sally managed through the very still, very relaxed body language. Well, not relaxed exactly, but not reacting as if somebody's really reaching out the poster, through the body language of our leads, to say this is a fantasy image. And it's stuff like that. It's being able to sell those different layers of reality that we can do a comic which goes into her head and shows the world from her point of view.
It's like visualizing or representing anxiety, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, 100%. It's like that last page you talked about on 4. It's where one of the last pages. It's it's a larger than life figure that JC sees, and that figure isn't 50 foot tall, but it's how she perceives that, and it's outstanding. So, but yeah, I think I wore Blake out. I was like, you got to read this book, and just kept slapping him with it. Like, check this out. I'm gonna get a hold of this guy. So, and like I said, always, he's tired of that. It's fine. No, he's okay. He's all right. Yeah, so other than
go on.
No, go ahead, Blake.
I wasn't that into comics when I was younger. As I got older, maybe it wasn't necessarily like when the Marvel movies started coming out. It was a little bit before that, but that kind of really launched me into it. And you've done some work on some of the more traditional companies too, right? How do you feel about particularly like the Snyder Cut of the Justice League movie?
It's great for the people who like it. I like the Marvel movies a lot. I've liked some of the DC movies.
Yeah.
I just never really got the excitement one way or the other. Yeah. I would watch it if it was on television, and I would probably enjoy it quite a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
That's exactly the way. I'm of course watched the Snyder. I'm watching the Snyder Cut. Blake told me how good it was and that it needed to be watched. It's 4 hours long, so to me that's a really long time, which is what got me into comics. I love to read, but when I look at a book that's 1,200 pages and I know I've got to commit to that, if I want to know what happens, I have to commit to this many pages. I can't. I don't have the patience maybe to do it. Where with a comic, I can read an issue and then be done either till I want to pull the other issue out or until the issue comes out. So it really cuts my commitment down. And of course, I'm like any young kid. I think. I mean, I feel like a kid at heart. I love pictures. So here I get pictures and words, and there's action, and I don't have to commit to such a long-term agreement that I'm going to read this book. I carried The Shining around with me when I was younger for like 18 months. I don't think I read 7 pages of it. I just couldn't. I couldn't decide I wanted to read it.
That's a tough read,
that's
though.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But that's what got me into comics was I could read a chapter and I could get a little bit of the story and I could put it down. And then when I wanted to read more, it was my choice. I knew a little bit what happened, and you just kind of take it in little bits. And that's what really got me into comics. And Marvel and DC, I don't think came into my life as far as me being a huge fan. They put out good stuff. It's very successful. They do well at it. But I'm kind of like you. If it's on TV and I'm sitting home, I'll turn it on.
But I've worked for both Marvel and DC on the superhero ranges, and I really love some of those properties.
Mm-hmm.
Marvel in particular I have a great romantic childhood love for Marvel.
Right.
And I could talk to you endlessly about Bronze Age Marvel comics.
Right.
And I'm also a collector. I've got a whole run of Master of Kung Fu upstairs, and nearly a whole run of Tomb of Dracula. But oh my goodness, some of those are expensive. I'm interested in writing superheroes, and I think my Action Comics run with Lex Luthor is some of my favorite stuff I've done. And at Marvel, Captain Britain was something I really loved doing.
Yes.
Right now, it's very much creator-owned for me. I've got 4 creator-owned titles coming out this year, of which the world is aware of 2, and I can't tell you about the other 2. The other one is The Modern Frankenstein, which is coming out from Magma in a couple of months.
Yes.
And so I do love superheroes, particularly 1970s superheroes, which just ages me. But,
Most of those are the best, though. The other thing that I was kind of wanting to talk to you about is you've been in a lot of places. You've been in TV. There's this thing. I think the obvious examples are shows like The Office, right? Where shows get switched over, they make American versions, and The Office was super successful. But the one that always stuck out to me, and I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on, was Being Human.
Oh, Toby Whithouse. Yeah, I love Toby Whithouse. He's a mate, actually. And I've loved the British version. I've never seen the American version.
Well, that's the thing. That's why I started watching some more British shows, just because the American one came out. It has Sam Witwer in it. And I think Sam Witwer's awesome. I like almost everything he's done. And it was good. I got through the first season. I was like, I want to check this out. There's more. It's a British show. I'm going to go find it. The British show was so much better. Like it was so much better. And I just binged the whole thing. And it seems like maybe that's the case with a lot of shows. I think just the shows that are made in Britain are they're meant for it. They're just better.
I gotta say though, I think we only ever see the best of each other's TV.
Yeah.
So you're judging British TV on the good stuff.
Yeah, that's probably true.
I guess you guys have your array of the same, filler television that we have. That's just like,
Yeah,
Do you when you look back over, do you feel more of an author and comic novel writer at heart, or more of like a screenwriter? Is there one you prefer more than the other?
Well, this is the trouble with my career. I've always sort of hopped back and forth doing whichever stuff appealed at the time.
Right.
So, yeah, I love writing prose. I'm very at home in prose, but equally, it's basically about how many people I want to interact with. Because prose is on my own or with one editor. Comics is a small team. TV is a huge team.
Right.
And
That makes sense.
I'm always involved in all three, and I am at the moment. Last week was a hideous juggling act of trying to juggle different media day by day, and I say hideous. It's lots of work, which is great.
Right.
But yeah, so moving between them is difficult as well. It's sort of a mental gear shift. Moving TV to comics and back and forth is really tough, because you'll end up writing one of those newbie comics panels, where the description to the artist says he runs out of the room and slams the door behind him. And the artist is
Sally would be real upset.
Even she couldn't do that.
Yeah, I was gonna say she would have some trouble with that. I feel like at that point, you've wrote for Doctor Who. I know you've done 3 episodes for Doctor Who, and you worked with my wife's favorite doctor. She's a huge Eccleston fan. David Tennant is her favorite doctor that she's ever had. Mm-hmm. I'll be honest, I never watched a lot of Doctor Who until I got with my wife, and instantly the first doctor that I was introduced to was Chris Eccleston. So he turned into my favorite, of course. But just a while back, we watched the episode that you wrote, Family of Blood, which is one of my favorite episodes, just based on maybe the protagonist in the movie or in the show are some of my favorite. The Scarecrow's really, just because it's a horror thing, I think, that's what gets me. Yeah. So anything horror related, but she has this thing for David Tennant being her favorite doctor. I'm sure she's got a little bit of a crush on him, I think. So we make sure we always watch Chris Eccleston. I don't let her watch too much David Tennant anymore. I can't trust her.
He's good. I like.
Yeah, I mean, he's just got that look, and he saves the day like he always does, and it's just like, well, I can't argue with him.
She doesn't like Matt Smith, right?
No, that's her least favorite was Matt Smith.
I like Matt Smith. Oh. I like him in The Crown too, but
I don't know what it is. I've never asked what makes her like one more than the other, but she is a huge. When I met my wife, she drove an SUV that had a big TARDIS sticker on the back, and at the time I didn't. She calls me the weirdest, the most redneck nerd she's ever met. I do a lot of hunting, so when I'm in a hunting blind and I'm real quiet, there's nothing better to do than read a comic. It's real quiet. So I'll be in my blind, like reading a comic, and I shoot guns, and then I go watch horror movies and read comics, and I collect horror figures, and I'm all over the map. And so I don't know. My wife really doesn't know what to think of me. But those episodes, that 2-part series or two-part episode you did there, like I said,
this is where I come from. I'm a Doctor Who fan to start with.
Nice.
And it was my first comics work was Doctor Who, and my first published prose. And,
right.
I had to sort of deliberately give up doing it professionally a few years back, because otherwise I was never going to do other stuff.
You've been kind of there.
And, I've written loads of stuff in different media for Doctor Who. And it's always the thing I most love. I mean, I get to be a guest in February's at the Gallifrey One convention in LA, and I think they pretty much guessed, but I'm trying hard not to tell them that if I wasn't a guest, I'd be there anyway.
I'm gonna show up regardless.
Oh yeah. And Doctor Who is the fandom I come from, the thing closest to my heart,
I guess I'd missed out. I don't know, me and Blake grew up in the same little small Eastern Kentucky rural little town, and I don't think families sit around at night in our hometown and watch Doctor Who. I don't think that was ever a thing. So I don't know it's just not something they're going to do.
That's the thing, actually, that it's in Britain, it's not a cult show. It's primetime BBC One viewing for all
Right.
the family. It always has been.
It's a world of difference between there and here.
That's
of how it's
similar to
perceived.
like Star Trek, right? Like it's been around for a long time. It goes away for a bit. It comes back, and then goes away. And it comes back, and then it blows up. Like it's got a history.
I just never realized the following that it had. When somebody would mention Doctor Who when I was, say, 8 years ago, I was like, never heard of that. And 5 years ago,
Doctor
I
Who.
was like, I've seen some stuff around. And now that I'm open to it and I see it everywhere, and there is such a following for it. And you're right, Paul. It's like it is a cult following here almost. Like,
Oh yeah.
I work with a paramedic. I'm still a paramedic on an ambulance part time. And one of the paramedics has a huge half sleeve tattoo, all dedicated to Doctor Who. He's a very big fan, to say the least. But it is, it's not something that we were ever.
1963. And, it's actually older than Star Trek.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. I just never, now that I'm into it though, it'll hook you. It'll hook you quick.
So you must have had some moment in your life where you kind of reflected and you're like, I liked Doctor Who when I was a kid. I liked Marvel and DC and horror. And I'm doing all these things. Like I've done it.
It occurs to me all the time. It's a brilliant feeling. And, having to write the word doctor in a script for the first time and put dialogue in behind that word that would actually be on screen. I've spoken to, my fellow nerds who are in the same position, and wow, that's tough. I just had to sort of, it's a first draft. It's going to be replaced with something else anyway. I'm just going to write some words. so I go blah, 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 blah for the first page or so.
Yeah.
Because, the idea that you're actually adding to this thing, goodness.
Especially if you've been a fan of, it's like if your favorite band was to ask you to write a lyric for their song, you've loved this for so long. So growing up, was this what you went toward? Did you want to do this, or is this something you just realized you were good at?
No, I was going to be a scientist. I was going to be an astronomer. And I went to university and studied astronomy and crashed out because I couldn't handle the maths. And so I had to fall back on the only thing I could do. And with lots of years of poverty in between, I ended up making a living as a writer. I have never had any other job.
Wow.
And I've been very poor for a very long time on occasion, but I've never had any other job. And, it's an absolute privilege to make a living from the words, and it takes doing. And I did have the aim in mind, though. When Doctor Who went away between the old show and the new, I became a TV writer with the thought in my head that if Doctor Who ever returned, therefore I would be able to write for it. And
excellent.
I kind of this is something I have in common with all of us of that generation who went on to write for Doctor Who. That every now and then I would pitch it to whichever drama producer I was with at the time.
So I know you've. I'm assuming with all the success, there's also been some failures or some maybe not as successful things that you've attempted. Where do you how? I have a problem with failure. I try to learn from it, but it will take me. It'll take me down when I fail at things.
It does when he gets crushed.
I do. I get because what I do is I will set 100% heart and soul at this level that I'm going to succeed. And if you don't, it will bring me down. So I know somebody who you do so many different things that you've had to, I know you've had some, I'm assuming pilots that didn't make it or books maybe that didn't sell as much as others. But you still stay, motivated that now you've done what you consider your best work ever this many years in, besides a family, I know your son or your child and your significant other give you a drive. What gives you the drive other than that, just to do no matter what?
Well, for freelancer's life, you're never going to get away from the failure. I mean, you don't hear about it from the really big people, but the really big people will be failing all the time as well.
Right.
One of the strengths of doing lots of different media is that I can always think, well, that didn't happen, but there's always this thing over here. And I've always got lots of stuff on the go, which helps, muffle the impact of any failure. But 2 days ago, I was completely crushed when something I really wanted to happen fell through. And, every creator is going to experience that on a fairly regular basis. And you gotta actually just have it happen to you so much that you don't care anymore. And I never stop caring, really, but it gets easier.
Right. You're just kind of numb to it, probably, I assume.
A bit.
But you've had, you did this for... Go ahead.
Well, I should say, you mentioned my little boy. This is not a shotgun blast on the walls on the door behind me. These are many, many, many tiny children's BBC stickers.
Nice.
But
I figured, that's a lot of everybody's drive is their child or their significant other. It gets me. I don't have a job. I don't create. I go to work to a clinic as a paramedic, and my drive still being my wife and my stepchildren that I have to. I want to come home and support. So we all have that drive inside of us, whatever it be.
You're actually doing something important, which I am not.
I don't know, because when I come home from a stressful night, this is what I fall back to. I get alone for a few minutes and I read a book or I watch a movie. Lately it's been reading. So that's in the same sense that people want to say that as a medic or whatever that there's important. There's also when we come home in the evenings just super stressed out. It's nice to lose yourself in something, even something heartfelt horror like this. Even just to lose yourself in a little something is a getaway for something like that. I know Blake games and comics, and so Blake and I are we enjoy the same kind of stuff, I believe, Blake. Matt, who you're not getting to meet, who I started this podcast with, is I don't know. Matt's a gun guy. That's all. I don't know.
He's a politics guy. Like
he is. Yes, he's very political, very technical, very political. He anything you do with Matthew is down to the exact science before he doesn't do it.
He's a perfectionist.
Yeah, Matt actually texted us last night and thinks he's seen a UFO. So now we're gonna hear about that and he he sent videos. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this yet. But,
I would say I'm a huge fan of UFO mythology. I wrote a comic about this, Saucer Country. And I'm not what you might call a believer. I mean, I think there may be a teeny tiny core of truth there, but it's minuscule. But I love the mythology. I mean, it's such a colourful and varied and glorious body of myth. And
it's a whole other world that you can.
Yeah, I don't like how pointed it's become in the last few years.
You can't really see that.
Yeah. So that's what was over Matt's up in his woods. This lit up object you're seeing was over his woods.
It's almost certainly the planet Venus. I'm also a backyard astronomer, and the number of weird things that one sees in the sky, and it takes a while, but then you realize, oh, that's
right.
I got to say, usually for me, it's a satellite. In that you've got a very bright object that's following the curve of the sky that just suddenly disappears, and it's gone into Earth's shadow. and but the planet Venus. I think a lot of people who aren't used to the sky, I hope this doesn't sound patronising. It's not meant to be. The sky takes a lot of getting used to.
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, I look up all the time, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on up there. So
realistically, how much time do we spend looking at the sky? Like, not a lot.
Yeah. But the fact that from a lot of the planets, certainly Mars and Jupiter and Venus, the human eye does get the feeling that that's not a point source, that's not a star, that's a disk.
Right.
And you can sort of, I wouldn't say the word is see, but that's not a star. And just a pair of binoculars, you can see the stripes on Jupiter. You can see the rings of Saturn, and good human eyesight, you can definitely see that's a ball and not a dot.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that it is a ball, and in the case of Venus, an incredibly bright ball that appears to be on fire.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of UFO sightings.
Yeah.
I learned in grade school actually that most people mistake Venus for the North Star. Like they know. I mean, they can see that it's not a regular star, but they usually think it's the North Star, but not.
That's right.
Because it's a lot more impressive.
Yeah.
And so we talked about this our last episode, and I brought up the point that as Americans, we want to say that our government's hiding UFOs and little green aliens, and I said, if they are, and I don't know if I'm sure you've seen the movie Independence Day. I don't know. If the government was finally to say, okay, you're right, we have these, and they unleashed this curtain, and there stood one of those Independence Day aliens, what are we going to do? Nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants that to be true. You don't really inside. You don't want that to be what's happening.
I do love the fact that this is the one area where governments are meant to be incredibly competent. They can really hide UFO stuff well. They can't do anything else.
Right, but they've got those hidden. It's like what last summer we talked about this too. That a bunch of folks were going to get together and they were going to take over Area 51, like they were going to storm Area 51, and that's the things as Americans a lot of us aren't proud of. We're not proud of those people who gathered a Facebook group of all their local, and sadly, a lot of those folks were probably nerds, comic book nerds, and sci-fi nerds, and they were like, "We're gonna go raid Area 51," and that's a bad idea.
They're all anime nerds.
That's true. They were anime.
It just turned into an enormous party, though, which is fair enough.
Yeah. But they were crazy if they were ever thinking that they were just going to... Because they're like, oh, if there's enough of us, they can't stop us. And it's like, that's not true. That's not true.
They stop other countries. We got it.
You could take 100,000 of you, and you rush a classified government area like...
and if the thing that they are thinking is true, do they really want to go and open the doors?
Right. That's my point. You don't want to let that out. You don't want to see that because then you're scared to death. Because if we have that, imagine what else is out there we don't have. We're still finding species of fish and creatures in the bottom of the ocean we've never seen before that freak me out. I'm scared to death of some of those fish.
Still finding animals on Earth that we thought were extinct.
Right.
There's a really good book called Mirage Men by Mark Pilkington, which isn't. I don't like skeptics very much. I mean, I try not to be a skeptic or a believer. I like skeptics with a C. People who are just naturally skeptical and want some proof. But I think there's a breed of skepticism which goes rather beyond that and goes into mocking people and being
denial.
And being nasty about this stuff.
Right, making fun of them. Yeah.
The proper scientific method should be, if you give me proof, I will believe it. The Mark in Mirage Man, and I took an awful lot of this for Saucer Country. It treads a very nice middle line, and he pretty much proves that the American intelligence community has been using the UFO myth for a variety of reasons, none of which are connected to them actually having aliens.
Right.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they
Makes sense.
basically they suggested to the Russians to the Soviets for the longest time in the 70s and 80s that they had a crash saucer. That's what that was for. And the Soviets had this thread in their intelligence culture that was very much a believer thread about aliens and psychic powers and stuff like that. And so the Americans just kept on hinting that they had some of this. And it played quite a bit in the culture.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. If you're the American government and you're working on something that the American people are either going to be terrified of or they're not going to be okay with, if you just say, "Oh, it's UFO stuff," I mean,
it helps when you're developing something like the U-2 spy plane.
Yeah.
That if people look up and see something they don't understand, they'll turn it into a saucer.
Yep.
Yeah. Finally, I guess what was it last year? They had to come out and say we actually have seen and documented this footage and have this. It was last year the government said that, right?
They still didn't know what it was, though.
Right, but that's what I was gonna say. That they came out and said this, but they still left so much unanswered and open where they could slide out of any kind of committed statement they made.
They've said that about the gun camera footage about 3 times when they needed to distract from something,
right?
Or to. I think they're trying to tell the Chinese now that they've got aliens. I think maybe that's what it is. Or
I mean, it makes sense.
The gun camera footage is all pretty explicable. I gotta say, there's nothing really new there.
I would love to sit on the board of members that make these decisions. Like, I want to hear their train of thought of what they think when they think this is what they're going to do.
Well, they have Tom DeLonge on there now, so.
Yeah.
But
the Blink-182 lead singer, right? Used to be.
Oh, right.
Yeah. That's what he did, right, Blake?
Yeah, he's doing some UFO alien type work with the government now, and yeah. He's done a few podcasts where he's talked about it. He was on Rogan, and he seemed like an absolute nut job.
But people believe him because people want to believe him, and that's the thing. If you want to believe something, you'll believe it. If somebody gives you a glimmer of hope, you'll jump on that bandwagon, and you'll believe it. And that's what's happening with UFOs, especially. I'm real hard on our state and our country, but it's true.
I find it a lot less glamorous now. It used to be there used to be something charming about UFO mythology, and I think now a lot of it feels a bit desperate and squalid, and I've shied away from it a bit now. I'd really like to finish Saucer Country, though. I only need 5 more issues. I've been through 2 comics companies. There's got to be another one. But so I'm trying to think of what else I do. I do this charming series of I say it's charming, that's up to the reader really, but I do this series of novellas called Witches of Lichford about witches in a little Cotswolds, which is a very touristy and beautiful part of England where we live. It's about 3 witches in my local town, really. And we've done 5 of those and wrapped up the series, and that seems to have gone down very well. I like ending things. A couple of times I've had things taken away from me before I could end them, and I really hate that.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's a sense of not completing something is rough, especially when you put so much into something.
But maybe it's just as bad as the sense of taking something too far. Like, there's definitely been some things that just go way too long, and it's like, man, it would have just been better.
I've never had.
Are you talking about The Walking Dead right now?
That's one of them.
I feel like you're hitting really underwater. I mean, it was. It should have ended 5 seasons ago.
The comic has probably went too far at this point too, but there's other things. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different things that do that. But
then there's, like, in your sense, Blake, you were such a fan of You have to tell me.
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones that ended a little too quickly for you, correct?
Well, it's the way
They rushed a lot.
It wasn't that it was too quick. It was that they decided to do it all in 12 episodes. Like they went from like halfway through the story in what six seasons or 7 seasons, and then they decided to do the second half in the last season. Like that's crazy.
That's hard for a fan when you put so much time and you know, I guess there's time and effort into these characters, and you love these characters, and then they end it like that. I have a hard time. So I have a hard time with committing to shows like that. I'm a sitcom guy. I can't commit to these hour-long shows. I can't. And then I get into them, and they end it, and I'm heartbroken. It's a whole mess. It's a whole mess. Now you wrote, you did some Sherlock. Did I read that right? No, you never helped with Sherlock.
No, I mean Stephen Moffat was my best man, but
okay.
I've never contributed to Sherlock.
Gotcha. Okay.
That I think you're thinking of Mark Gatiss.
I read this somewhere. I don't know where I read this. It might have been on something that I read that just had you in it. I don't know.
He ripped off one of my plot ideas. He said this at San Diego Comic-Con.
Okay.
When it was Sherlock leaping off the building, I blogged about what my solution would be, and he just took a bit of it.
He took it. Okay, maybe that's what it was. So speaking of, so there's with the pandemic, I know it's affected, I guess, you know, Europe just as well as far as cons and conventions and things. Hopefully that starts back this year. Hopefully we get some conventions coming up. And I know you seem to always be around as a writer and as a creator. Do you look forward to those just like the fans do? Do you love coming to those, or is it more of a
enormously? San Diego Comic-Con is my favorite thing on earth. And I just love the fact that we seem to have invaded and taken over a small town, and that everybody in the streets got a lanyard on, and and also it's kind of, and this surprises people, but it's warm and friendly.
Yeah,
it's great.
You know, there are distinct social centres where you will run into people, you know,
right.
And you know, it's not a huge alienating experience. Seeing my people in every street of a town is a terrific experience, and a terrifically warming one. And I've missed it tremendously. I've actually missed it for 3 years because my gallbladder exploded the year before.
Oh,
and so it's been a long time since I've been to San Diego Comic-Con.
I've never made it. Blake, you made it to San Diego?
No, the biggest one near us is in Lexington, Kentucky, and it's like a pretty big one for our region. And the owners of it are actually going to run one in Huntington starting this year.
Nice. So these are much smaller. When you look on a scale of San Diego, these are an eighth, maybe, if not smaller. But they're very good, and they're still No, go ahead.
I also love the Thought Bubble conventions in northern England, which are they're small, they're arty, they're full of comic creators dancing. They have a big party in the middle, and comicers just get up and dance.
That's amazing.
I've missed those tremendously, and
I think we all take those for granted. You know, I think we took, you know, conventions and gatherings like that. I know I did. You know, Lexington, as well as they do the Comic-Con convention, they also do a horror convention that they put on every year called Scarefest. So of course, nothing happened last year with that. But you know, there's conventions. San Diego, I think, actually created this whole thing of now you can find a convention everywhere now.
Yeah.
You know, you can find them in every state, and that's awesome.
I'm going to be vaccinated up to my eyeballs before I venture into the middle of 100,000 people, but I look forward to it.
Yeah, it'll be a good time after everything kind of gets back to a place of normalcy, I guess.
I got my first vaccine a few days ago.
Well, hey,
how'd you feel?
This coming Wednesday for me. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, the first one it makes your arm a little sore, but that's about it. The second one is supposed to be the rough one, but
I get my second one this week. But I had COVID. I actually caught COVID back in Thanksgiving, thanks to none other than Matthew, who's not here with us for me to give him a hard time. He gave that to me. I got no symptoms from it. I gave it to my wife, who laid in bed for 4 days and felt awful. So it just kind of hit us.
That caused like probably 20 people to get COVID.
Yeah. Matt was the leading strain for that. Yeah, it was rough. His phone call was the same. Hey, so I got COVID, and I was like,
This was the day after Thanksgiving. It was everybody comes over for Thanksgiving. The next day, Matt's on the phone like, sorry.
Yeah. So everybody he was around, everybody I was around. There was a whole small community of people that had COVID thanks to Matt. But I like how we're giving him such hell right now, and he's not here to defend himself. We're just that's how we do.
When I was a teenager, I nearly died of pneumonia. So I've been immensely paranoid about COVID.
I guarantee it. Yeah.
And I've been, I haven't been anywhere.
Right.
I'm taking my little boy to school. I'm putting 2 meters between myself and everybody else. I'm hoping to get to the finish line without getting this thing.
Matt works in a lab, so like he's doing COVID tests all day, every day. So I mean, it was probably going to happen.
Yeah, it was inevitable, I think, for him to get it. And I work in an ER, or used to work in an ER, so you're around these people all the time. You're going to catch it, no matter how many precautions you take. You pull your mask down early one time, and there's a chance you catch it. So it's just kind of a chance you take. But it's just funny to hear that phone call, from Matt.
Yeah. Speaking of San Diego, I think we're going to try to go to San Diego sometime. We might try to look you up if we get out there. My wife, she loves Gerard Way.
I will let you know which bar I'm in.
Sure.
We will. I'll be at the one that's the loudest. That's where you'll find me at.
But she's obsessed with like Gerard Way and the Umbrella Academy and all that stuff, and he's out there.
I love that.
So she wants to go real bad. So I think, I don't know, maybe we'll make like a group trip and get out there, because I've always wanted to.
Yeah, that's on the list of things of where I want to go.
Everybody should do it once. It's and I would say if you don't want to queue up for Hall H, then you can probably see just about everything you want to see. And I love the fact that, as well as the enormous panels, there's 250 teeny tiny panels. I go and I'll go and see Marv Wolfman and Jerry Conway talk about 1970s comics in a room with 40 people.
Right.
San Diego Comic Con.
Yeah, it's always those small ones you feel like you get more of a personal touch with the artist or creator than sitting in a room of 500, 600 people and trying to hear and listen and,
Yeah.
It's interesting meeting a bunch of these people too. Like the last time we went to Lexington, I got to meet James Marsters, and I didn't know he wasn't British. I thought from Buffy, I just thought he was. Like, he's super American.
Super American.
He's got a pretty good accent, actually. Yeah.
And then we got to meet one of the women from Supernatural. She is Scottish, I think.
Oh.
Yeah, I'll look it up sometime. She's red hair, and she plays a witch. Supernatural.
I don't know that show at all. I know it's enormous, but I've never seen it.
Yeah. But it's good. I've not watched a lot of it, but it's good what I've seen.
That's pretty good. But it's interesting meeting all these different people that you've seen on TV or you've read their comics, and they're all there. And I think San Diego would just be like that times 100. Like, it's huge.
What I've noticed about any convention, maybe not any, but like horror conventions and Comic-Cons and this goes for you speaking. I mean, you're on the podcast with as creators and artists and authors, you guys are very approachable. Because as far as if you think about sporting events, how big sporting events are in America, football and baseball, basketball, you can't walk up at a convention and expect to get within 50 yards of an athlete without being stopped.
Yeah.
you can walk right up to, any artist of a book or movie and shake a hand and talk, and you feel a connection with these people.
True.
It's a world of difference. And I don't know what does that. Maybe it's because you guys, I'm assuming, I know you are a fan, obviously, of the things you create. So maybe there's a difference there in that.
I think most of us, we work alone, and we really enjoy meeting people who appreciate the work.
Yeah.
And I take a table at Thought Bubble, which I don't really have anything to sell. I only have my comp copies, but I just like meeting the people who show up, and it's I recall I was one of 6 people at a Doctor Who convention which had Marv Wolfman and Len Wein on a panel back in the day, and the Doctor Who fans, of course, had no idea. We're in different panels, but me and the 5 others, and Len actually, in the end, stopped me from asking any more questions because he was a bit afraid of my love for him, and. And I became good friends with both of them before dear old Len passed away just recently. But I kind of hanging out with 70s creators is remarkably easy because they are not actors in an enormous movie franchise who need to be protected.
Yeah. Last time I went to a convention, by far the easiest people to talk to or just to meet were illustrators and writers. They were easily the easiest.
Now that you mention it, it makes sense. You guys spend, like you said, a lot of your time alone, and you put this work out, so you get it's us that you meet that read those words, you put. So that makes a lot of sense. Kind of opens up why you guys are so approachable, and why when I go to, like I met Kane Hodder, who played, Jason Voorhees and 789 and X, and like, one of the coolest guys to ever just kind of walk up to and meet, that I watched growing up, playing Jason, and that's why Jason has always been my favorite horror icon. So to walk up and just meet him, I was expecting this 40-foot long line and have to pay hundreds of dollars, and he had stepped out of line to go to the bathroom, and he comes back and just randomly puts me in a headlock just out of nowhere. And, it's just that connection. And probably because he's a fan of the same stuff. So he's going around and shaking hands as well as we were. So it's a different world. I've always thought that, when you're a nerd and you're a horror buff or a comic nerd or whatever you want to be, and I know the word nerd used to get such a bad rep, and nobody wanted to be a nerd. And now it's like, as you get older, you're kind of proud to be in that category. But it's a world of difference.
About 20 years ago, I think we won. I think, there isn't really a ghetto anymore. we kind of conquered the world.
Yeah, you're right. That's how it happened. And now it's a thing. It's a world of difference in what it happens.
I'm acutely aware, my vanity this evening, that my COVID hair, because I haven't been near a hairdresser in several months,
right?
It looks like a wig has been plopped on top of my head, or maybe it's original Star Trek hair.
Right, it's just good and fluffy. Where it's
yes,
yeah, it just got long. I put a hat on because I asked Blake before I did it. I was like, I don't know what I should do. I was what do I do with my hair? I don't know what to do with this. Blake looks like you're having some mic problems.
I got it. You
got it worked out.
I think as soon as the world goes back to normal, the strict haircuts that will become fashionable, it'll be, look, I did huge waves.
Right.
Yeah.
I did a lot with it.
So mine has always been real quick. The actress I got to meet was Ruth Connell. I don't know if you know who she is, but that's who it was. The way I've always been is I just let it grow until I can't deal with it anymore, and then I get it cut. So I'm just going to continue to do that.
That must be something from us, because that's the same thing I used to do. But then I realized those last couple of weeks I had looked awful.
Yeah.
And like now I have a job where I'm in a clinic and I'm working a front desk and I'm a medic and I'm seeing all these people and so now I start getting a haircut every 2 weeks and I don't really need it, but it keeps it right there at that line where like it looks okay. And as a man, I got to have my beard trimmed up because I can't get rid of this because there's some stuff underneath here that my wife's never seen before. There's 2 more chins. I keep 2 chins right here that she has not met yet. So I'm going to keep those covered up. But yeah, I think when
I have invested in some clippers. I do my own bearding.
So I was watching before this, trying to be a good host and get a little prepared. I was watching some of your other podcasts you'd been on and things, and I noticed a variety of sometimes you were shaved real clean, and then sometimes you had a beard. So in my head, I had this little guessing game of how you were going to come on today. I was like, I don't know if he's going to have a beard. It's just this internal game I played with myself to see. And you came in with like in the middle, like with a 5 o'clock shadow, like it's right in the middle of both. Like, so I don't know if that's a win or a loss. I don't know, but
my beard is a ridiculous Rasputin thing. It's got different colors in there.
I'm all gray here in the front.
I'm getting some gray too. But I'm not allowed to shave because I look like I'm like 16 when I shave. I'm 34.
We lost you, buddy. Yeah, we lose him. Everybody's got technical difficulties today.
Oh boy!
I say that being the only one that's not had any problems yet.
I don't know what the deal is.
I've not had anything happen yet, so.
My interface.
I'm lucky. There you go.
But yeah, she won't let me shave because she's younger than me, and when I shave, I look younger than her.
That's sad. I don't know if that's good or not. It's very sad. So you do a podcast as well. You mentioned earlier. So you all review films from like what 55 and to the 70s from right?
Myself and Elizabeth Miles are working our way through the Hammer horror movies in UK release order.
Gotcha.
And we just hit halfway.
So you do those in chronological order. Nice.
We've been at it for 3 years, and we've got about three more years to go.
And that is called Hammer House of Podcast.
Mm-hmm. We do one of those every month, and for patrons, we do an extra whole episode every month, where we do other studios from the same time and audience member requests and stuff like that. And so we're kind of educating ourselves. I mean, I was sort of the newbie to Hammer, and Liz knew a lot more, mainly through her enormous love for Peter Cushing. And so we started with the Quatermass experiment, and we're going to go all the way through to the end of the modern Hammers. And I'm loving it. How
do you enjoy podcast? Do you enjoy being a podcast host like that?
I love it. It's we've got we know what the audience expects, so we have our in jokes, we have our running gags, and the audience comes back to us so much. We get lots of lovely chat, and there's a couple of Hammers that are absolute works of genius. Curse of Frankenstein is staggeringly great, and there's about 10 that I would say are amongst the best horror movies in history. And there are some real clunkers along the way, but that's actually more fun for us. I think the audience can get a bit restive if it's just both of us going, "Wow, that was good" for an hour.
Christopher Lee, right? Frankenstein's monster in that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a Boris Karloff fan, real hard. I love Boris Karloff. Yeah. I just it was the first Frankenstein I was introduced to, so I think when you're introduced to it, you grab onto that. And I've always been a Karloff fan. I've got the comic books, of course, that Karloff was in and things like that. So, but yeah, Christopher Lee did a really good Frankenstein's monster in The Curse of Frankenstein.
Did you guys see what
tremendous.
Sony tried to do like a few years ago? They made a Dracula movie, but they were making it like an extended universe, like what Marvel and DC are doing.
Oh, I heard about that. Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to continue it, but it sounded so cool.
I would love to. I mean, I always thought that the Universal monsters, of course, all did live in the same universe, and
Yeah.
it would be lovely to revisit that. Hammer don't do that. The Dracula movies and the Frankenstein movies remain resolutely apart, which is a great shame.
Yeah.
Not even all of their Frankenstein movies seem to happen in the same universe, which is a crying shame.
It's such a difference in things. The Universal monsters are always something, I think, that as a kid growing up, I remember having little action figures of Wolfman and the Mummy and things like that. And maybe that's what drawed me into all this like culture that I'm in now.
Got to be said though, that first Dracula is a bit ropey. I mean, Bela Lugosi is great, but the movie is oof.
Yeah, it's not a crowd favorite, I don't think so. But I'm always anxious to see what comes out next. There'll be another Frankenstein movie that comes out at some point. There'll be another Dracula movie that comes out at some point. And so I'm always wondering what that's going to be like and how good it's going to be.
Did you watch the Netflix miniseries Dracula?
No, I heard bad things. Is it good?
I liked it.
I heard bad things, so I didn't watch it.
It's different because it starts out like Bram Stoker's Dracula, and then the second episode there's like a bridge, and the third episode it's like modern day. So it's like this extended story.
Oh, you mean the one Moffat? You mean the one Moffat and Mark Gatiss wrote? The BBC one.
Yeah. Yep. That's it. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I thought that was brilliant. Of course, I'm dabbling in this area myself. The new comic is called The Modern Frankenstein, and it's kind of doing. It's a take on one of the things I love about Peter Cushing's Frankenstein is that the character is very nearly a good guy. That he's trying really hard to work for the universal good, to do, to further the cause of medicine, and accept that his ego and his extremity keep tripping him up and making him do awful things. And so I put that in the modern era with a brilliant surgeon who wants to do all the experiments that are unethical, but we'd learn a lot from.
Yeah.
And actually, one of the most difficult things was creating a world where nobody's ever heard the name Frankenstein and how to bring that over.
Yeah.
So somebody says at one point, Frankenstein, that's an unusual name. I've never heard that before.
Right.
And it's... I'm really loving that. Art on that one by Emma Vicelli, who's a great artist and is really breaking down the emotional beats. That one's kind of a twisted romance as well as a horror comic.
Yeah.
There's the first time I've had to write sexy stuff in a comic, and goodness, my directions when I have to write a sex scene. To send to a friend to draw. It's like, oh, well, where to begin?
Right. I really hope I'm not projecting too much.
Yeah.
I can see that would be weird. I mean, there's some people who just get it. Some people are really good at it. And then you got like George R. R. Martin, for instance. He'll spend 50 pages talking about a plate of food. And then, like a sex scene, he's over in like a paragraph.
Well, that's the delight of George. I mean, he's a good friend. Actually, he's somebody I'm kind of a mentor. By sheer accident, he was the person who first learnt about the existence of our son when he was still in the womb.
Oh yeah.
he was just there the night when we hit 3 months. And,
oh wow.
So. He got to hear. He suggested we call the child Daenerys, but no, he's a very sweet man. He's sort of Father Christmassy, Oh, there we are.
I love those
did
books. I mean, they're
yeah.
great.
Did all our talk of sex send you running away? Was that the?
No, I got that last second of that. No, I actually thought I had a comic, a couple different comics I wanted to show, but I there's 7 dogs asleep. My wife's asleep on the couch, and my nice box of comics was right behind her. And I went to peek, and like I went to reach, and she moved, and I just got scared, and I come back. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't want to wake her. I didn't know what was gonna happen.
Wonderful.
She's not slept well lately, so I was like,
Oh, yeah.
Did I miss anything good though?
He knows George R. R. Martin, the writer of Game of Thrones, has kind of mentored him. That's cool.
Nice. I know we've kept you a little longer than I said we would.
Mentors. Oh, that's okay. I've enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
I guess that is a game where you've got every avenue that you've took. You've probably been mentored maybe by somebody who's dabbled in that longer than you when it comes to movies, TVs, and so.
Yeah, I mean, it's lovely to find people with experience and learn from them. You know, it's a nice thing. And I've been privileged to work for Stan Lee. I got editorial notes from Stan Lee over the phone, and I think we all thought when we signed up to do a line of comics that his imprint was on, that he was just going to be, you know, kind of a figurehead. No. Lots of editorial notes. And I think I got one sentence in edgeways during that phone call. And he is everything people say he is. He was immensely charismatic on the panels selling the comics. And then in private, really precise and lots of good notes. You know, that's a great privilege to have known him. And I feel like, because I'm a bit of a tourist with my geekdom, with doing this stuff, I'm going to try and use it to meet the people I want to meet. And I did a 6-page story in 2000 AD the other day, just because I'd only ever worked for 2000 AD spin-off comics and really wanted to be able to call myself a 2000 AD writer. So I did a 6-page comic in 2000, just so I could say I've worked for 2000 AD.
I love it.
Really.
That's great.
So, you know, I think I'm sort of just assembling a bunch of good anecdotes for when I'm 80. That's my job.
Well, listen, like I said, we've already told you how much we enjoy the work. I know that
Thank you so much.
What you say is your best work to date has made an impact. I mean, you see it everywhere. I know at least around here at any of my local comic shops, it's off the shelves quickly. I had to fight for the copies I've got. I had to fight an old lady for them. No, I'm joking, but I would have. I would have in a second. But I know, I would have. Don't you know me, Blake? I would have fought her, and she'd have probably won, but I'd have tried real hard. I'm not the most agile gentleman anymore. At 36 years old, she'd have had her way with me. But I know I've enjoyed you coming on. I appreciate the hospitality, the everything, just the agreement to come on. I know we planned this out 3 months ago. I think I talked to you before Christmas.
Yeah.
I know it got drug out. I had some family stuff going on. We had the holidays and things, so I appreciate you kind of waiting around and still being game to go. Blake's had to hear. Blake is glad you're here because now I'll stop. I've talked about you being on this podcast now since then, and so he's just glad you're here and done. So I won't talk about it anymore. Now I'm just going to say, you think he'll come back on sometime, Blake? You think we could get him to come back? That's what I'll say. No, I have thoroughly enjoyed it. I know it's late there on you, and we appreciate what you do and all the effort you put into your work, especially what you do for the fans. Coming from one yourself and myself, we're very appreciative of the hard work you put into all that stuff. And I'm glad you get to do a job that you enjoy, a job that you like, because I always hear if you do what you love, you don't really work a day in your life. I don't know if that's true. I like being a paramedic, but there's days I feel like I go to work every day and I come home and I'm like, that was awful. So, it is what it is. But you definitely have a cool gig. And maybe, hopefully, like Blake said, we'll get a gang of people, and we'll see you in San Diego, and and catch up. That would be maybe we can be within 6 feet of each other for a handshake or something. I don't know. It depends what the rules are. There's all kinds of rules now. It's 3 feet now, right?
I don't know. It'd be cool though.
It's 3 feet here.
I mean, I don't know what it is for you. It's 2 meters.
Now they said we can. They said that we can be within 3 feet of each other now, but I don't know. This is nobody listens in Kentucky. Nobody stopped barbecuing. My neighbor's been barbecuing for 6 days straight. There's 13 people over there right now eating. But that's give me a minute. I'm going to go join them because it's dinner time. So
we're lucky. It's really rural here though, so there's really not much spread. Like it's
It's mainly. I think ours mainly came from hospitals and nursing facilities and things like that. It wasn't. And I mean, Matt caused half. Right, Matt caused half the problems.
Yeah, Matt gave
Matt's
half the
reason it all happened. Paul, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Huge fan. It was been an honor. You by far have made my night, and I appreciate getting to sit down and talk to you face to face. I love the work. I can't wait for issue 5, issue 6. Definitely, if you haven't checked it out, Vault Comics, I Walk with Monsters, Paul Cornell, Sally Cantrino does the artwork. I'm not sure who does your lettering. You mentioned them.
And World is the name of the company.
Got you. There you go. It's a masterpiece of collective team you guys have done. So we'll see what's next. I know you got some stuff you can't tell us about, so we're looking forward to hearing and seeing what that is this year. And we will stay in touch with you. And I wish you the best. Thank you again. Enjoy your night, Blake. Thank you, sir. And let's catch up soon.
Thank
Okay.
you so much.
Thank you, Paul, for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Night.
And
Night, bub.
see you guys later.
Thank you.